behind the mask, the hidden strength of survivors. Have you ever looked at someone polished, poised, perfectly put together and thought, wow, they really have it all figured out? That woman in the boardroom with the confident stride and flawless presentation, the entrepreneur whose Instagram feed looks like a masterclass in success, the colleague who never seems to break a sweat, even under crushing deadlines. I had the privilege of interviewing Rosalyn Maldonado recently, and what I learned shattered every assumption I've ever made about success and strength. Rosalind is a force, a brilliant business owner whose impact on entrepreneurial space for Black women has been nothing short of revolutionary. She's transformed how we think about authenticity and leadership and created pathways for others to thrive in spaces that weren't designed for them. Her courage to speak truth to power has opened doors that many thought would remain forever closed. But beneath that polished exterior lies a story of survival so profound it will forever change how you see the people around you. Because here's what I've come to understand: we are surrounded by survivors wearing masks so convincing we never question what lies beneath. The truth that Rosen helped me see is both devastating and liberating. That strength rarely looks like what we imagine it to be. The truth is, that woman crushing it in the boardroom, she might have spent last night crying in her car, gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white, rehearsing tomorrow's presentation through tears. That entrepreneur with the perfect feed, she might be rebuilding her life after escaping violence. Each carefully curated photo a testament not just to her business acumen, but to her determination to reclaim her narrative. That unflappable colleague, she might be carrying wounds so deep they defy description. Each deadline met a victory not just over time management, but over the voice inside that whispers she'll never be enough. And yet, there they are, showing up, building empires, leading teams, creating beauty from ashes. How? That's what I needed to understand. Through my conversation with Rosalind and the stories of other remarkable women, three profound truths emerged that I believe can transform how we see ourselves and others. First, survivors wear many faces. The most confident person you know might be fighting battles you cannot imagine. Second, when professional help isn't available, when therapy is financially out of reach or culturally stigmatized, faith becomes a lifeline, something to hold on to when everything else falls away. And third, speaking your truth doesn't just heal you, it breaks the chains of shame for everyone who hears it. Your voice becomes the permission slip others have been waiting for. Let me tell you about Rosalind Maldonado. Behind her success as a business leader lies a harrowing journey few would suspect. She survived abuse from someone she once trusted, someone who promised love but delivered control. She endured a kidnapping that left her wondering if she would live to see another day. She faced moments where she genuinely feared for her life, where the world narrowed to a single desperate prayer: please let me survive this. And yet, if you passed her in a hallway or saw her leading a meeting, you would never know. The confidence you'd see, real; the business acumen, exceptional; the leadership, inspiring, but also incomplete. Because while she was building her career, she was simultaneously rebuilding herself, piece by shattered piece. She was learning to trust again in a world that had violated her trust. She was reclaiming her voice after being silenced. She was redefining safety in a body that remembered danger. The hardest part, Rosalind shared, wasn't the physical recovery. It was showing up every day looking put together when inside I was still terrified. It was smiling through meetings when flashbacks hit without warning. It was building a business while rebuilding my sense of safety in the world. When I asked what carried her through when professional help wasn't accessible, her answer was immediate: faith, not as a platitude or easy answer, but as a tangible presence. There were nights, she told me, when faith in God was literally all I had, when therapy wasn't an option, when friends couldn't understand, when family was too far away. Faith became the hand I held in the darkness. It wasn't about religious performance, it was about having something bigger than my pain to hold on to. Today, Rosen used platforms like Instagram to speak openly about the hidden struggles behind entrepreneurship. She's created a space where success and survival can coexist in the same conversation, where vulnerability becomes as valuable as vision, where how are you isn't answered with fine, but with honest reflection, where the journey matters as much as the destination. And she's not alone. The women of Hyler's global talent represent another powerful example. This network highlights Black women entrepreneurs thriving in creative industries like animation, fields where they remain dramatically underrepresented, often being the only one in rooms filled with people who don't share their experiences. Many of these founders started with minimal resources but transformed obstacles into fuel. They channeled past adversity into art, into leadership roles, into educational content that lifts others. They've taken their wounds and turned them into wisdom, their pain into purpose, their struggles into stepping stones. What's remarkable isn't just their professional success, it's their willingness to acknowledge the private pain that often remains invisible to outsiders. They're creating space where emotional scars and professional achievements can coexist in the same conversation. One founder shared, people see the business I've built, but they don't see the nights I cried myself to sleep. They don't see how many times I had to rebuild my confidence after it was systematically dismantled. They don't see how hard won every milestone really was. Each achievement isn't just a professional victory, it's evidence that I refuse to be defined by what tried to break me. Yet these women have built networks of mutual support, leveraging both education and lived experience to create opportunities for themselves and others. They've launched successful creative businesses that serve not only as profit centers, but as platforms for advocacy, speaking out on issues impacting Black communities and normalizing discussions about the emotional weight of leadership. Then there's the Crew Network Foundation Scholarship Program, which spotlights young Black women breaking barriers in commercial real estate, another field where they remain vastly underrepresented, often navigating spaces not designed with them in mind. These scholars face implicit bias and discrimination while managing academic pressures and often unspoken personal traumas. Yet, through mentorships and scholarships designed specifically for minority students, dozens go on to secure internships at major firms, take leadership roles in university organizations, and co found new ventures. Take Roxanne Eba, who co developed a $30 million historic redevelopment project before completing dual master's degrees, all while mentoring peers locally. Her journey exemplifies how high achievement can coexist with invisible wounds, how excellence doesn't negate struggle, but often grows from it. What connects all these stories? The profound truth that survival and success are not separate paths. They're often the same road traveled in different shoes. The skills that help you survive trauma, resilience, adaptability, determination are the same ones that build empires. The strength that gets you through your darkest night is the same strength that propels you towards your brightest day. And this brings me to something I've been thinking about a lot lately: the cost of our silence. We live in a culture that celebrates strength but stigmatizes struggle. We praise resilience but penalize vulnerability. We admire the finished product but avoid discussing the painful process. We want the phoenix but not the flames. And in doing so, we force survivors to choose your truth or your image, your healing or your career, your authentic voice or your seat at the table. What a devastating, unnecessary choice. Because here's what happens when survivors speak: shame loses its power. What thrives in darkness withers in light. What festers in isolation heals in community. When Rosalind began sharing her story publicly, something remarkable happened. Women started approaching me after events, she told me. They'd whisper, "Me too," or "I'm still in it," or "I got out last year." My story gave them permission to acknowledge their own. This is the paradox of pain transformed. What once isolated her now connects her to others. What once silenced her now amplifies her voice. What once threatened to destroy her now empowers her to build something new. And isn't that the most profound form of resilience? Not just surviving, but creating meaning from the survival, not just healing, but helping others heal. In the soft girl era, this sacred pause where Black women are finally choosing themselves, there's a revolutionary act happening. Women who spent decades in survival mode are reclaiming their right to softness. They're dropping the superwoman cape. They're learning that boundaries aren't selfish, they're sacred. As Rosalind put it, my soft girl era isn't about being weak, it's about being honest. It's saying, yes, I survived this. Yes, I built something beautiful anyway. And yes, both these truths can coexist. This is what it means to redefine strength, not as the absence of struggle, but as the courage to acknowledge it, not as perfect composure, but as authentic presence, not as having it all together, but as being willing to fall apart and rebuild as many times as necessary. So I challenge you today, not as a distant observer, but as a fellow human being, to look beyond the masks, to recognize that the most polished person in your meeting might be fighting the hardest battle, to understand that strength rarely announces itself with fanfare. It often whispers through tears, through trembling hands that keep reaching, through voices that break but keep speaking. I challenge you to create spaces in your workplaces, your friendships, your families, where people don't have to choose between their truth and their belonging, where vulnerability isn't penalized but protected, where we can say, this happened to me and it hurt and I'm still here, without fear of judgment or rejection. And if you're a survivor wearing a mask so convincing that no one suspects what lies beneath, I see you. Your strength isn't in hiding your wounds, but in continuing to live, to create, to lead despite them. Your worth isn't diminished by what happened to you. Your voice matters, not despite your pain, but because of how you've transformed it. Remember what Rosalind taught us. Survivors wear many faces. Faith can be a lifeline. And speaking out breaks shame, not just for yourself, but for everyone who hears you. The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more whole people. People brave enough to acknowledge both their wounds and their wisdom, their struggles and their strength. People who understand that the most powerful words in any language might be, "Me too, you're not alone, we can heal together." Because in the end, the most beautiful success stories aren't about never falling, they're about rising again and again and extending a hand to help others rise too. They're about masks that slip, revealing not weakness, but the most profound kind of strength, the courage to be seen fully and completely in both your power and your pain. That's not just survival, that's transformation. And it changes everything.